I ranked every single monster in Monster Hunter Frontier, but in high rank. Join me today as I'll be covering my experience with each monster in the game and rank all the monsters that you probably had not seen before. For those that don't know, Monster Hunter Frontier was a game that was only available in Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Korea, and Macau. It's about 78 monsters exclusive to Monster Hunter Frontier. There's a lot to cover. So today, as I found my way through the game, I would like to rank your new favorite monsters in this tier list. Also, a huge thank you to Gaudium or Hunter's Notes on Twitter for the insane amount of help remaking all the Frontier icons for this video. Definitely recommend checking her out. And also a huge thank you to Smans for helping put together this behemoth of a video. You are both insane. Here's some rules I'm going with. These monsters that are going to be ranked are all high ranked monsters, so monsters from HR 1 through 6. I'm going to talk about my first impressions with the monster for the hunt itself, how they were introduced, and the mechanics and uniqueness to the game. But keep in mind, some of these monsters will not have all their phases, like Taikun Zamuza and Unknown. Since they are in high rank, they aren't shown to the full capacity. I'll be ranking every single monster again for G rank. I intentionally did not progress any further than high rank because I wanted my opinion to be true to what is shown and not phased by their G rank counterpart. There are some monsters that I have not experienced fully, but only because they are raid type monsters like Laviente. But I will talk about the monster a little bit from my experience. Then how I'm ranking these and what I perceive as bad in the list. These monsters will be ranked by my first impressions and the monster itself and how unique it is in the series. D through E are on my I don't enjoy list. There are some in there, but which ones? Also, let me know where you would rank these. These are just my personal opinion from my own experience through Frontier, so I apologize ahead of time if your favorite monster is lower in the rankings. Trust me, there's a lot of crazy unique monsters in the game. With that, smash that subscribe button if you want more of these. My name is SkojSkull, and welcome to another Monster Hunter video. Let's do this! Hypnocatrice. Every Monster Hunter has a bird-looking introduction monster that is small and just being an obnoxious little guy. Hypnoc is a little different. Even with its back and forth charge and its ability to sleep, the monster is not bad. Compared to other bird wyverns like Yangaruga and Yankuku, I enjoyed this monster a lot more. The sleep attacks are pretty avoidable and bearable to fight against. It would peck around a lot, but not spam the attacks. While it charges here and there, it doesn't do it constantly. It even topples over like a Plesioth when it charges sometimes, tripping over itself while fighting against you. Overall, this was an enjoyable fight for just dipping my toes into the series, and then later finding out that there are different species of the same monster gets me pretty excited to explore more. So overall, I put this monster in B. The monster isn't too groundbreaking, but it's a fantastic start for what's to come in this game with all the different gimmicks the monsters have. Taikun Zamuza. Let me introduce you to the crab Sharishvalda of Frontier before Sharishvalda. The monster is considered a Carapassian, which are crab-like monsters like Cenotar and Daimyo Hermitar. This is such an awesome monster to hunt. As you're fighting, you have to break down the rock covering this crab before you can do some real damage to it. But be careful because this monster will then move faster and it can definitely do some serious damage. It also comes with different phases as the fight goes on. As you start breaking this monster down, it will destroy the floor beneath it and bring you underground with it. With that, I'm going to give this monster a big fat juicy A. It was a big surprise for me when I fought the monster, especially when it broke into the ground, forcing us to fight it down below. It was especially exciting when breaking this monster down like it's a toy mining kit you get as a kid. Abiorugu. Do you remember this monster? Some of the monsters you will see on this list, people have recreated in Monster Hunter World as mods, so you can kind of experience this brute wyvern in a newer generation, and from what I've seen, it can get rough. Now, fighting this monster in Monster Hunter Frontier, its design is very Devil Joe Glavenus-esque, with an ear-piercing roar that it does sometimes way too often. And don't even get me started on the angry stomps, making your hunters stunned quite frequently. Its attacks involving a lot of tail swipes and chomping at you with its teeth and fiery breath makes it a really cool monster. So I would rank it as C. This monster is not crazy groundbreaking, but it's honestly a pretty cool monster aside from all the roars and stomp attacks stunning the monster a lot, so it makes it a little annoying to fight in some ways. Dyuragaua. There are a couple of tigress looking monsters in Frontier, and this is definitely one of them, but this flying wyvern, while it has some similar moves, it is very different. While swiping its claws at you, it releases a gust of ice shooting at the hunter. It then roars, freezing its face, tail, and claws, making its attack stronger. Even with its similar form to Tigrex, it's definitely a vastly different fight and a very enjoyable one, so I would rank this at A. The hunt definitely surprised me when I was expecting a very similar hunt hunted Tigrex when it froze parts of its body to fight, and I can't wait to hunt it more. Gurenzeburu, the flying Zamtrios on Monster Hunter Frontier. Unfortunately, it doesn't expand its body, but it does look a lot like the monster but with wings. This flying wyvern was definitely interesting, doing a lot of slam attacks, charges, and hip checks. It also shoots out this water ball like attacks and a water beam like Plessia. Something I just found out that it produces a paralysis like gas, kind of like Gravios. This monster for me was pretty forgetful. The hunt did nothing new for me, but it was alright to go through, so with that I'm putting this at D. Is what I would say! But experiencing this monster later on and seeing and experiencing all of its moves as I'm recording the hunts after streams, it's been a pretty enjoyable fight. So I would rank this at a high C. Rukodiora. I welcome you to the first Elder Dragon on this list, and it uses its magnetic pull to drag hunters around. It can pull you towards it, or if it doesn't like you too much, it pushes you away. It also constantly surrounds itself with debris circling around the monster like it's orbiting the sun, and if you get too close to it, you can get hit by it. Then it shoots out these really intense red dragon element sweeping beams to attack you. Regardless, this is one of the most fun fights in Frontier, and I really hope Monster Hunter brings in more quirky mechanics like this. This will be our first S rank monster. I just loved everything about this monster, from its design to the hunt itself. While playing, we fought it over and over again to gather its armored weapons, and it's a monster I would love to hunt 100 times more. Gogomoa, the mommy monkey of Monster Hunter Frontier. Yes, this monster hunts you down, swinging around using webs like a Nursilla. It's literally Spider Monkey!
Yeah.
What?
And it's got a baby on its back.
I know, it's adorable. This monster, I would say, definitely attacks more aggressively when provoked. It is mostly a kind, peaceful monster just swinging around and minding its own business. It's a different story if you're attacking while it's carrying a child called Kokomo. This monster is the Kangaskhan of Monster Hunter, where it's bring your child to work day every day. When attacked, this monster goes crazy and becomes super aggressive, attacking its young, protecting its young, and making sure that nothing comes by to hurt it. This monster can definitely get annoying to fight, as it never stays still and goes around swinging from tree to tree and occasionally launches at you to attack. I absolutely love this monster, and aside from needing it to stay still, I would rank this at S tier. It's been so much fun fighting this monster, and very different from all the other monkey monsters. Pariapuria. When met with this hungry beast, it will definitely help to feed it, but not too much. This flying wyvern attacks can get quite annoying when it shoots out dirt and debris towards the hunters, stunning them almost instantly. When you enter this quest, you realize there's a lot of different kinds of meat prepared for you on this hunt. Definitely make sure you grab these and place them around the monster as it's attacking you. When Pariapuria charges at you, it actually eats all the meat along the way, and you start noticing its stomach start getting bigger as the hunt goes on, kind of like a Zamtrios. I never got to this point, but you can actually give it too much food. When this happens, the monster then throws it up and you can gather some extra rewards. But when you feed it something bad, it'll use the contents of his stomach as a weapon. With that, and being one of the few monsters that uses the food given to it as a gimmick in its hunts, I would give it an A. Nono and Kamu Orugaron. This Orugaron Nargacuga-like monster in terms of the fighting style, who also never stops jumping around when you fight him. When you get into the hunt, you are met with two of these monsters. Then before you think you're about to hunt two of these at once, one jumps away from the action. Orugaron was an amazing fight, with its crazy howls blowing you away to the way it looks when the monster gets aggroed. Now, the depressing part about this monster is when you finally kill it after it jumps around so much, the other Orugaron comes in to realize what has happened, lets out one last howl, then jumps away to mourn over its dead lover. Also, in later ranks, you do end up fighting the other Kamu Orugaron, and the reverse happens with also an added move sending spikes down from its back to its enemies, similar to Nargacuga's tail attack. Experiencing this fight was very interesting. I really loved the introduction of the fight, and the relationship between Nono and Kamu Orugaron was a really heartbreaking story after the hunt. For my own personal experience, fighting these monsters were tedious, so for Nono Orugaron, I would place it in E. Then because I enjoy Kamu's fight a little bit more with its added spike attacks, I would place it in D. Akura Vashimu. Encountering this monster was something else, and I mean literally something else. You are met with nothing in this desert but a random crystal in the middle of the area. Then when going up to touch it, you are thrown back by its tail, whipping about, clearing the area for the scorpion monster to dig itself out of the sand. Definitely watch out for its tail as you hunt, because it shoots out this high pressure liquid, causing its victims to be covered by the same crystals, losing all of their stamina. From what I read, it is possible to remove the tail after you break the crystal, but it does regenerate its body parts quickly so be fast. With all of that, I would absolutely rank this monster at S. It was a blast hunting the monster and an absolute treat how unique of a design and different gimmicks it has. We need more scorpion monsters. Berukyurosu, the Astalos before Astalos. This monster is one of the coolest flying wyverns in the game, with not only its design with its wings and blunt spiked back, but it has some very unique attacks compared to other flying wyverns, using its wings to give you the biggest high five and its thunder attacks, some of which involve electric wing and tail swipes, which can paralyze you.
No, it's very shocky.
Oh, okay, I'm on the ground. Slamming into you from the air with electricity, sending out an electric shock wave, shooting out electricity from its mouth, also sending out electric portals from hell on the ground as it flies around. Oh, something I just found out was that it changes its behavior depending on what weapon is used, and also learn patterns of attack from hunters and will counter it. When first encountering this monster, I was definitely in awe, as I do have a soft spot for electric monsters like this. Since it also has a lot of attacks similar to my second favorite monster, Astalos, I'll sneak this into the top of A tier. Bright Hypnoc, or breeding season Hypnocatrice, is no different from the normal male Hypnoc, but it's a Hypnoc during mating season. It does not have too many different moves other than it shoots up sleep projectiles up in the air to fall onto you. With it being not too different from the original Hypnoc, I'll place it in C. If it had more significant differences to the monster, then I'll definitely place it in B for breeding. Kuarusepusu. This skinny crystal beard was honestly a lot of fun to fight with the gimmicks that made sense for the monster. That really did surprise me. On my first encounter with the monster, it was using the storm to shoot out lightning from its mouth at us and controlling it from the sky using the crystals on its body. When I encountered this monster in the desert, it used the sunlight as a weapon, like a magnifying glass, shooting beam-like attacks at the hunters. It can also shoot out this huge light nova that you need to be aware of, otherwise you'll get seriously damaged. This monster didn't really seem too exciting for me when hunting it, using the environment to its advantage. I personally didn't really connect with this monster, so my placement for this monster is B. Doragyurosu. This subspecies of Berukyurosu is basically the same monster with more moves and has dragon element attacks instead of lightning attacks, along with the familiar move of flying up in the air and launching itself at the hunter with a large explosion of dragon element attacks. It can also use its long wings to hurl rocks at you, fly above the hunter, and use the long parts of its wings to pierce into the ground where you are and slam itself into you with great force. And yes, this monster can paralyze you still. There are also lots of moves like Berukyurosu, where it releases dragon element electricity with each attack, even charging at the hunter going in for the cart. It's a very intense monster and a blast to fight, so it would go in A above Berukyurosu. White Hypnoc. Expecting the same as regular Hypnoc and breeding, White Hypnoc has a lot more added moves, and is placed in an arena to fight it, so you know it means business. This version can fly into the air and slam to the ground in an attempt to crush you. Funnily enough, after it slams into the ground, it takes a second for it to go back into action because it's feeling the aftermath of the slam. Kind of like when you jump and slam your feet onto the ground, sending a really weird sensation to your feet. The monster also runs around in circles and stops around in place. And yes, this monster does still inflict sleep. I would place this monster in B above the normal Hypnocs. This is overall mostly a different fight and a pretty fun one. White Espinas. After the excitement of seeing both regular Espinas and flaming Espinas in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, this monster was left on the back burner, and boy, I can see why people were disappointed to not see this version of the monster not make its return. This monster is definitely a lot different with a very white and pink look. While it does have similar moves, it really outshines the other two Espinas. Like the normal Espinas, it can start off the hunt asleep before the hunters come in to wake it, while charging back and forth and also flying at you with its horns and spikes at the ready. Its fire moves are something else. It flies into the air, shooting down a fireball and surrounding the area in flames. Not only that, but it can control these flames and move them around. I don't think it knows. Oh,
okay. No, it knows.
This is literally the firebender of Monster Hunter. I don't see Teostra controlling fire like that. Even with a fire move being such a spectacle, I don't think it's enough for it to completely separate itself from the other Espinas. So it'll be at the top of B. Forokururu, the large bird wyvern who uses his toothed beak to suck the nectar from flowers. Depending on what kind of nectar it takes, the feathers on its huge wings will change color depending on the element. Pale green and with red spots and tips, no element. Yellow with white tips is paralysis. Black with yellow spots is defense down. Gray, white, and orange swirls is soiled. White with green tips is healing. Light blue is sleep. Red with orange tips is fire. Gray and white swirls is dark. Streaks of black, white, red, and yellow is attack up, and dark blue is poison. While this monster has a large gimmick, it is also a big wall to fight for many people. As irritating as this monster was when I first fought it, this monster was one with its environment, so I'll place it an A in front of Dyuragaua. Laviente. This monster was huge, and I mean massive, being the biggest monster in the entire series. Yes, even bigger than Delamadur, by a staggering 1,000 centimeters. You can definitely feel it when you're in a hunt. Well, maybe not exactly a hunt. Similar to Kulturov and Safijiva, this monster is a raid type hunt. Now because of that, I didn't get the chance to fully experience this monster. When I first fought it, I kept on dying and dying endlessly until we miraculously clear the portion of the raid. From what we have seen so far, it goes in different stages, and eventually in those stages, the monster changes to sometimes an entirely different arena to fight it. So because I haven't fully experienced the monster, I will be placing it in its own rank. But don't worry, this is the only monster I've done this with, since, well, it's something I really want to take my time to learn because I really have thoughts about it. Lolo and Ray Gogogarf. The Sonic and Knuckles of Monster Hunter. These monsters are the wrestlers of Monster Hunter Frontier. Literally one of the coolest fights I've seen. They literally WWE slam you into oblivion, using each other to swing themselves around and throw themselves at you. The moves they do is so crazy.
Oh boy, yup.
Did he just spin him? Their objective is to overwhelm you as they hunt them. And yeah, I'm definitely overwhelmed. Also, fun fact about the monster, if Lolo partner is killed, Ray will cry out in tears and flee the area, then be unable to enter in an enraged state. On the other hand, if Ray is killed, Lolo will become enraged permanently and will fight the attackers to the death. With the crazy tag team that they are, it's something I haven't really seen before in the Monster Hunter series, and was very different compared to Kamu and Nono Orugaron. It was a blast to hunt overall. So for this duo, I'll place it in S rank right in front of Gogomoa. Baruragaru. As disgusting as this monster is, it seems to be a relative of some kind to Kezu and Giganox. It is definitely a very interesting monster and with a lot to it. And yes, this monster has a comically large tongue, using it to lash about and to suck the life out of you with this very disturbing scene. I was too stunned to move. This monster also has the ability to poison you if it sucks the blood of an Iodrome, and paralyze the hunter if it sucks the blood of a Dendrome. It also has blood-based attacks that I have never seen before, lowering the sharpness of your weapons. On top of that, the monster can burrow itself into the ground and whip its tongue out like crazy trying to get you. So as disturbing as this monster is, I'll honestly place this in S tier behind Gogomoa. Inagami. This monster was the most surprising going in. With a crazy bamboo-filled arena, I was not expecting this monster to be the Yamato in Monster Hunter World, using its power to summon bamboos around the area, attacking you in the process. It can also use the bamboo as weapons or create wings to glide around. What? When you injure this monster, it creates this gray substance to patch itself up where it was wounded, making its defense and attack stronger while making it slower. This would be an insane elder to have back. Fighting this monster was a blast, and even the design itself is so powerful. I'm placing this behind the Rukodiora in S. Diorekkusu. Right when you get into the hunt with the burst species of Tigrex, you are met with this monster charging up into its electrified roar, destroying the floor of the area around it. What an entrance! Like a Tigrex, it charges around and roars, but it kicks up its hind legs like it's using friction to create electricity for it to move fast. Not only that, but it can kick up the rubble behind it to create this wall for Diorekkusu to jump back on to launch itself at the hunters. Like, what? Along with its electric nova-like attack, like it did in the beginning, has a lot of other random electric attacks as well. The blue on its body is actually ore that is magnetized to itself, so you can break it apart, revealing a more familiar grayed out Tigrex when fighting. Its armor is super cool with the same blue color, and the look really reminds me a lot of Lunagaron's armor that we got in Sunbreak. Who knows? It might be a callback. Honestly, this was a blast to fight with its insane moves and the fact that it disconnects itself from Tigrex, making it a very different fight. I would also place this at a solid A in front of Dyuragaua. Meraginasu. Have you heard of a monster that uses the power of sound to figure out where you are? In Monster Hunter Frontier, we are met with this bird species version of the monster Espinas called Meraginasu. This monster, when met in the cave, does use its ears more than anything, unlike Kezu, who uses its sense of smell. So be careful when you come near this monster, because whoever is doing the most damage, so making the most noise, will get attracted to the monster the most. Once it's locked onto you, you, it will go after you for a while before it calms down. With its club-like tail and its horn being shaped like a drill, this monster is a menace. This monster is a solid S tier for me. After Gogomoa, we even took the time to grind out some of its gear to help us through the game, and it was a blast to hunt throughout. Akura Jebai, expanding upon Akura Vashimu, where instead this time we were met with this monster inside a cave, and it has a few more moves. Alongside Vashimu's moves with its spinning attack and various attacks with its tail, it does a lot more with the crystal than what Vashimu can achieve. It can whip its tail around like it's betting for you to come towards it, then snaps its crystal at the hunters with a small explosion, as well as jump in the air to let out another small explosion. It also shoots out this high pressure liquid at a much faster rate, so be careful. As it lashes its tail around, it can also have a chance to paralyze the hunter, leaving you vulnerable to its attacks. Then watch out for its biggest move as it leaves a crystal on the ground. This is a rock that you definitely do not want to touch, as it lets out an even bigger crystal explosion. With all that involved, I am going to do the unthinkable. I'm going to knock Vashimu all the way down to B in front of white Espinas. Move over, Vashimu, we got a new scorpion monster in S tier. Zerureusu. Let me introduce you to the coolest looking Rathalos in the game. This burst species flying wyvern's buildup in this fight was amazing, where before it kicks in with this music and pretty cool looking transformation, you're met with this monster in silence, fighting it as it introduces its moveset. Oh man, but yeah, no.
Okay.
Wait, this is a Wrath! With similar moves to Rathalos itself, it can send down blue spikes coming from its body that can explode when sending another attack on them. It also shoots out its sweeping light beam attack. It also does these other attacks like diving down towards you, dragging itself through the ground, determined to get its prey. Then as this monster transforms, expanding the blue spikes on its body, the music kicks up and the monster becomes more aggressive in its fight. It goes up in the air, sending exploding projectile spikes. It can also dive into the ground beneath it, charging at the hunter, coming out as it shoots its beam of light. This monster brings in the heat, and for that, I'll be placing this at the top of A, and you'll see why later, as there is another monster on this list that really brings in the challenge amongst the wraths in this game. Gureadomosu. With our fueled hatred for this rock-hard monster Gravios.
Does Liz hate Gravios so much? Oh, I can tell you. Because it's a fucking rock. Why do they make a rock sentient?
This origin species of it acts a lot differently, and even though its moveset caught us all completely by surprise, it is also a lot more annoying. When meeting up with this monster, you find it peacefully by the water as it takes a drink. Since it has no fire or gas abilities, it relies on its strength and huge amounts of water coming from its body. This water fountain joy is similar in looks to a normal Gravios, but with green and yellow moss formed around its body. One more thing, if you thought this monster was slow before, well, it can propel at you using the water as a jet stream and move like you've never seen it move before. It can also shoot balls of water from its moss on its back formed like a cannon. Sometimes while it's raining cats and dogs, instead of sending out a hyper beam attack, think about a Blastoise Hydro Cannon, but from its mouth. This monster really does have amazing control with the water in its body as it maneuvers around the battlefield, even launching itself into the air with a huge cannonball and shoulder charging into the hunter, making you forgive Plesioth for the hate it received. So while it's not my favorite, it was definitely a surprise, but it's not enough for me to fight it over and over again. So it'll be placed in D, above Kamu. Poborubarumu. Did you know in Monster Hunter, there are monsters that act like certain weapons in the game? Like with Glavenus acting like a greatsword, with its tail looking and acting like, well, a greatsword, charging up its attack and going in for its big swing. Well, the Monster Hunter Frontier, there is another. The big whale, who is also a flying wyvern with its massive head and very unique looking tail, is one of the coolest looking monsters you will see. This tail acts like a hunting horn, doing different performances mid-hunt. These sounds can increase its own strength and also better defend itself in the battle against you. Be careful because its tunes are so good that it can get you to dance along with it while you're hunting. Standing near this monster while it buffs itself can also affect you, giving itself and you an attack, defense, and health buffs. There's so much personality with this monster, and it's always a fun time to hunt. It makes me want to connect more monsters to weapons as well. This is honestly at the top of my list for me. Just the overall design and goofiness sells it. While we have so many intense monsters in the game, this one definitely shines amongst them with being the total opposite. Not saying that some of the other monsters don't do the same, like Gogomoa and the Gogarfs. This monster is just beautiful. Therefore, it'll probably be at the top of my list. But who knows? that can change. Odibatorasu. You will never guess what type of monster this is. Yep, it's another flying wyvern. Come on. This absolutely massive monster, who is similar in size to Aknaktor and Ukanlos, honestly had my jaw dropped when I encountered this beast. This monster's attacks mostly consist of using the sand around it, shooting a huge stream of sand from its mouth to attack you. This absolute behemoth can dig around to get at you. While in the sand, it can also shoot at you like a tank. This monster has definitely been in the war. Also, be careful when it starts going on its hind legs, because it does have a move that could one-shot anything in range. There is literally no way of getting around it other than just to run away for safe measure. For massive monsters like this, it is quickly becoming my favorites amongst the absolute giants that Monster Hunter has to offer. Not only that, but its theme is absolutely one of my favorites in the game, and so I'll be plopping this monster in S tier right before Inagami. Merugu, the monster with the power to control metal itself. This elder dragon has the ability to control this metal mercury-like substance around the arena as you fight. The way it controls the metal substance around itself is insane. It can send it into the air, raining mercury down on you. It can gather the metal goop on its tail, whipping it around, sending a trail of metal spikes. This monster can continuously surround itself with this metal, and when it swings itself around, it can get you stunned so badly you collapse. It can also send a blob of goop at you to explode more metal goodness. There's so much happening. Definitely one of my favorites in the terms of design and just the overall hunt, but for me, other than the fact that it can control metal, it doesn't stand out to the rest of the roster like the other monsters. So with that, I'll be placing this monster in B tier right behind White Espinas. Guanzorumu. This is one of the most royal monsters you'll ever see, and I'm not talking about Royal Ludroth. Guanzorumu is one of the most intimidating monsters to encounter, and when walking up to its domain, you are met with a cutscene of this monster sitting on a literal throne getting ready to fight you. This monster will not let you escape alive, as it is extremely territorial and gets the entire arena engulfed in flames in different ways. It's so much fire. The only monsters they seem to allow near them are Igurasu, who follow Guanzorumu out of fear of its tremendous power. Guanzorumu treat the Igurasu like expendable servants, often killing them if they fail to do its bidding, or devouring them to gain more power. This monster is terrifying. When met with a monster, you can get it to retreat, which makes you fear for what it can actually do later on. This is the king of monsters, and for that I'll smack this in S tier in front of Inagami. Unknown, the black flying wyvern. This was a monster I never thought I wanted, which was a huge breath of fresh air compared to all the other rats, like Rathian, Azure Rathalos, Pink Rathian, and so on, moving and looking really similar. Well, aside from Zerureusu, this monster takes a normal Rathian and jacks it up to 100. It's almost like scientists taking the DNA from Mew to make Mewtwo. Jumping into the hunt, you're at the top of the arena at the tower, which can be found later in Monster Hunter 4. But going down to meet up with the monster right when you join the quest, you are met with this terrifying roar, along with large claw marks on the screen with huge words that say unknown. The last time I saw something like this was for Monster Hunter Stories 2, when a huge warning sign came up on the screen when Anjaneth came to join the party. So these indicators are definitely meant for something big to come your way. When fighting the monster, it occasionally lets out this ear-piercing roar that leaves the hunter completely immobilized. I definitely tried to see if I could be out of range, but I just couldn't. It lets out multiple fireball moves alongside with this massive nova, indicated from when it stands completely straight up, arching its back as it charges up. It also lets out a large sweeping beam of fire, lets out a lot of large spikes on the field, sends out a puff of smoke around itself to bring down your defense, then finally has the move where it digs its claws into the ground, grabbing a massive boulder to lift you up into the air as it goes in for the kill. This monster, as tough as it is, only goes to 3 phases in high rank. I can only imagine what lies ahead in G rank for this monster. I love a challenge in Monster Hunter, and this was a big one for me. It's a monster I would love to solo one day as well. With the intensity and aggressiveness that it brings, this will definitely be placed at the top of my list in S tier. Poborubarumu. This burst species flying wyvern of Diablos is crazy fun to mess around with. You can also play catch with the monster with this weird looking volcanic cacti. While you're hunting and while the cacti is dealing damage to you, you need to make sure to keep this away from the monster, because otherwise it'll power up, creating this really cool look, shooting fire out of its body like lighting a gas stove. This monster seems a lot lighter on its feet as well, just casually flipping around as it's attacking you and charging at you pretty quickly, leaving a trail of fire behind it. Speaking of fire attacks, it can let out a big attack that gets almost the entire arena engulfed in flames. With that, I'll place this right in S tier in front of Meraginasu. Torticlus. This bird wyvern class of monsters introduced in the first generation. They are a small to medium-sized class that includes flying wyverns with slender bodies that are bipedal and in some cases either have wings or lack wings. Learn something new every day. Anyways, this bird-like monster being covered in beautiful feathers and has an intense looking beak and claws has the ability to let out powerful lightning attacks. To release these attacks, it charges up its power and shoots out bolts of electricity at the hunter. It can also shoot out its feathers at you, even combining it with the lightning to give it that extra punch. As amazing as it looks, this monster was kind of underwhelming for me and a little forgetful, unfortunately. Even with its beautiful armor, I'll be placing this in B tier in front of White Hypno. Gazura Bazura. This is the poison monster of poison monsters. Puke Puke has nothing on this monster. It can create large bubbles of poison, then something I just found out, it can also send out streams of poisonous sludge, and while it's creating pit traps, it can also fill it with poison as well. Yep, it makes its own pitfall traps. Basically Uno reverse carding the hunters. When enraged, this monster became that much more intense looking, expanding different parts of his body, like its tail and its hands, then unfolding its sail and frills, making this monster look so cool. Honestly, this monster was a really fun fight, and I can see this coming back. So with that, I'll be placing this in B tier in front of Torticlus. Bolzhang, let me introduce you to the probably one of the coolest looking origin species monsters in Monster Hunter Frontier. This monster looks like it lived in the volcanic region for far too long, as its design gives off a rocky look, a larger tail, and larger horns, looking like it's a fiery devil straight from hell. Its attacks mostly consist of brute strength slamming into the ground beneath it into a fiery volcanic explosion. It also has a variety of fire moves while being on fire itself, with its arms, tail, and back giving off a volcanic rock look. It can roar into an explosion of fire and shoot out a ring of fire as it launches itself through it, letting out so much heat. This monster was a huge surprise for me when I first encountered it, and was amazing seeing all of its attacks. With all that, I'll squish this right in A tier in front of Doragyurosu. Toa Tesukatora. This origin species of Teostra's fight was beautiful, with a lot of crazy ice attacks, making every impact from this monster a barrage of ice, very much like Lunastra and Teostra with their fire. The ice is very much part of its movement. As you fight this monster, you will start to notice ice forming around your leg, and it slowly grow around your body, freezing you in place, vulnerable to its attacks. You can get broken free as you're getting frozen by yourself and or by other hunters around. This monster is absolutely gorgeous with its large ice attacks like the supernova Teostra and Lunastra do. Design-wise, the fight for me was not very groundbreaking compared to Teostra and Lunastra. As much as I love the design and the fight, I'll have to place this in B tier in front of Torticlus. Garuba Daora. As someone who is not a big fan of Kushala, I actually really love this fight, probably because it uses less wind attacks. Getting into this fight was amazing as you go after this gorgeous monster in the sky on top of the large exploration ship. This version of Kushala has so many new moves using the crystals surrounding its body. It can release this super hot flash of light that can absolutely one-shot you if you aren't near it. Garuba has a lot of crystal-based attacks, which include crystallizing the hunters, and if you don't do anything about it, well, your stamina completely depletes, and if you don't shake it off, you can't. As much as the fight looks amazing, it was pretty obnoxious to go up against. The crystals became really hard to avoid over time unless you had the deco to counteract it. So this will be placed in high C tier in front of Gurenzeburu. Goruganasu and Oruganasu. These two monsters, which look really close to Lavasiath and Gyaratortoise, hate each other, and as they are fighting you, they are trying to take down each other, making this one of the most chaotic fights in the game. While one monster is down flopping around, the other comes swimming underneath it to strike her from below. I myself have never seen this before in Monster Hunter. Oh, what? Is it gonna do it to the silver one? Please tell me. Yeah! During this fight, they do end up working together, performing a powerful combined attack with Garuganasu's Electric Storm and Oruganasu's Ice attacks to create an electric ice tornado in the middle of the arena. So even while they're attacking each other, they do end up working together in order to take down the hunter who invaded their territory. They are so stubborn in the fact that they refuse to die. So while one is in the brink of death, you have to go after the other monster in order to complete the quest. As much as I don't like most PC and Wyverns in the series, this was definitely on the more enjoyable side and was a crazy fight overall. I would place this at the top of C. These poor guys don't even have their own icon. Then finally, the monster you have all been waiting for. The last monster I have experienced in high rank before diving into G rank, Shantian. Fighting this absolutely gorgeous monster was incredible. Even while fighting it, my fellow hunters and I fully utilized the large exploration ship that we were fighting on. As its introduction, this monster would come gliding in so gracefully to view its surroundings. Then we as hunters go in for the kill. As you go through its phases, it seems as though it changes the weather around it, like it's an Amatsu bringing in a storm. In the beginning of the hunt, it seems fairly simple as it spins around, hip checks you, and charges at you on the ship. But then things start to change as it gets off the ship and flies far from you, staring you down as the sky gets filled with lightning. The monster then comes in for the kill, forcing us to use the binders to keep it at bay and bring it back to the ship to continue the fight. Then, on its later phases, it releases huge amounts of lightning to keep the hunters away, and then now hovering around the ship to slam onto the floor with its large attacks. As we finally repel, we were left in awe of what we just fought. Like the Unknown and Guanzarumu, these are only the early phases of the fight. We have so much to explore when fighting these monsters in G rank, which I'll continue my journey shortly after this. So where would I rank this? For the different phases and music and just the amazing spectacle it is, I'll have to place this in S rank behind Unknown. Wow, honestly, what a wild ride, and thank you all for your patience as we're getting this video out. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and let us know where you would rank these monsters as well. I would love to hear what you think. This video was a big passion project, and I really hope you all enjoyed this. Also, a big thank you for all the love and support from all the hunters that helped myself and my friends through Frontier, and especially thank you to Cross Dragonheart, Floors 1314, Midnight Live 27, The Meme Monster, Recklessly Giant, Luna Shadowbane, and Silverwings for being absolute legends, helping the channel with your tier 2 SkojSkull membership tier. If you want to support the videos further and get these videos a day early than everyone else and get your name shouted at the end, then hit that join button and become sexier than ever with the SkojSkull tier. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you all in the next video.